Welcome, dear viewers. I sat down and compiled 28 years of my international and multidisciplinary business expertise because I realized that most companies fail or at least stay behind their potential because of their low dimensional expertise or focus. And therefore, I created the 8 dimensional business success matrix. In this presentation, you learn why 90% of companies waste a lot of money, which combines to $353 billion per year, why two-thirds of all AI adoption initiatives fail to achieve ROI, whereas C-suite executives estimates in average vary by 1,600% from their reality, and the 8 dimensions, of course, in which almost 100% of organizations fail in at least one or even more, and where even the best AI companies make mistakes. I'm talking about OpenAI, Anthropic, and Microsoft. This presentation has 3 chapters. Of course, the biggest one is going to be the first with the 8 dimensions. And then I have a few pages with a few guides you can print out and best practices. And in the end, if you're still interested, a few charts about me. So the 8 dimensions of business success would be the company, product, and or service, then the business model behind it, the Zeitgeist Fit, then how you mitigate or address global threats, the marketing mastery in your company, the consumer insights that you have, user experience that you offer, and the creative 360-degree concept. I'm going to go through all of those 8 chapters, and at the end, there's always going to be one chart with key metrics, with data from those presentations and studies. So the first dimension is the company, service, or product. So here are just 2 exemplary images. For the left, you see a enterprise AI setup for a large language model company, and on the right side is just a car engine exemplary, because in Germany, of course, the automotive industry is the biggest. But this could be anything. So if you're in the hospitality, then it would be something completely different. If you manufacture foods or sports goods, equipment, this is your core business, what you do, what you create, what you offer. What I realize talking to companies and even to specialists at AI events, most people, and especially executives from the non-technical area, and don't have the slightest clue what's about to happen. Everybody's talking about AI, but the radical changes that are about to come, most people are unaware of. Another issue that I see, especially in companies, me being neurotypical with Asperger's and ADHD, and I'm totally aware, of course, that most neurotypical people like to work in hierarchies, and I believe that made sense in older settings, in tribes, when you had the immediate effect of seeing that someone is a good leader or not. And nowadays, especially in big corporations, in highly complex systems, as our world is, I think it's not timely anymore, especially because big corporations, they need a lot of expertise. And as said, the times, the technology, they are changing rapidly. I believe that too many executives hinder the success of their company due to ego, or do in German we say Besitzstandswahrung. So 2 solutions that I know of. One is from Ray Dalio, the principles approach. If you look at the presentation later online, you can click at all the pink links and they will lead you to further resources. Or I also created a tool, it's called Vibe Matrix. You can find it later on our website. Another issue that I see is that many people fall for biases. I love to verify my information, and there are at least 188 biases known on Wikipedia, and this is just a quick overview. So this is also assumption-based decision making is a huge problem, in my opinion, in companies. So here's the first chart with key facts, and also with the quotes from which survey they are. For example, 45% of employees feel that the company has been successful in adopting Gen AI technology in the last 12 months, contrasting to 75% of executives. So there's a huge disconnect, and you can see there are a lot of numbers that show that we have in many companies huge issues, and especially a disconnect between the different hierarchies, the different departments. And yeah, I highly encourage you to go into those studies and read the details. Then the one thing, if you have the company, everything is running, but of course, it needs to make money with it. So you need to have a business model. You need to have a product market fit, and there are various forms to analyze it. A strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats analysis, Porter's five forces, growth metrics. I mean, there are many things, and of course, also you need to see yourself. Do you have a unique offering? Where are you in the market? What is the trends? What is the buying power? And what I love, or what I recommend, is to have a unique value proposition. And I love developing blue ocean strategies because I believe that's a good way to evolve your model, your business model, because I think uh, times are changing, and if you're stagnant, then you will fall behind sooner or later. So also one misconception is that okay, if I have more employees, I get more work done, but actually there's a diminishing return on the employee count. So the Professor Derek J.D. Zoller Prize, he found out the square root law, which basically says that the square root of your number of employees does 50% of the work. So if you have 9 employees, 3 to 50% of the work. If you have 49, 7. If you have 110, if you have 10,100. So that's why, for example, if we go to the next slide, here we're just comparing 4 companies, Google, including DeepMind, Mistral, OpenAI, and Anthropic. We all know them, of course. They're all AI companies. Mr. Deutsch, the French founder of Mistral, he also hinted it in an interview where he said that's why they have their teams at Mistral very, very small compared to Google, where he worked before, to be fast and efficient, and don't have that employees who don't pull their weight, to put it nicely. And you can see also, for example, Google invented 2017 the transformer architecture, and they slept on it because they were successful, because their advertising business made so much money that they also didn't think they had to invent anything new, even though they invented the technology, or 7 employees of Google. And if you look at Mistral, for example, in the middle of 2023, they left, or the founder left Google, founded Mistral with 22 people. And then within, I think, half a year or 7, 8 months, they launched their first Mistral large language model. And within 1 year, they even had 7 new large language models. And they invented the mixture of experts architecture. You can see, like, also Anthropic is amazing, which were former OpenAI employees. They launched a Claude 1 with 7 employees, the Claude 2 with 7, and I was already using Claude 2 and loved it. And it was back then already one of the best, and still Claude is one of my favorite. So you can see that small teams, high performers, they can get a lot done. Something you should also take into account. Second chart of the second dimension. So organizations underestimate the application count by 1,600%. There was in the intro chart the number. In average, the executives think they have 37 applications and pay for them, while in reality they have an average 625 applications. And this is, of course, average numbers for big corporations. Enterprises lose $104 million annually from those digital inefficiencies. And you can also read the details. Most disheartening, 41% of millennial and Gen Z employees admit that they sabotage secretly their company's AI strategy because they don't trust it, they're afraid of the job, they don't like the tools. 73% of orgs invest between 1 and 100 million annually in AI, but only 1/3 achieve ROI. An average 36 working days per employee wasted per year because they have to fiddle around with the technology, something is not working, they have to go to IT. These are huge, huge problems. The third dimension is Zeitgeist Fit. Here, I like this picture a lot because it's New York City, a similar vantage point. And on the left side, you see only one car with an engine, the rest are horse carriages. On the right side, 13 years later, you see one horse carriage and the rest are automobiles. as we've seen with Google and with many other companies, if your business is running, if you're making profit, you're not inclined to invest in R&D because, of course, it would reduce the return on invest, and it also requires that you're willing, mentally also able to innovate, and you have flexibility. There's no resistance in your company, which I encountered more often than not. Here, I like this image a lot because it shows nobody is too big to fail. And therefore, I urge you to ask yourself, do you think you're bigger than Blockbuster or Polaroid or Nokia or Kodak or Atari or Pan Am? Because they were all huge, epic companies, very successful, and they don't exist anymore, or they dwindled into irrelevance. If we look at the stats, this is we have the 10 top 10 companies investing in AI with their numbers. Of course, Microsoft with over 40 billion, the highest investments, and you can see that AI is growing 62% year on year. If you're not investing into AI, you're falling behind very, very quickly. These are basically the same graphs. On the left side, it's a logarithmic graph. If you look at the y-axis, on the right side is just a normal standard graph. And we are already past the timeline on the right. So we're going exponentially upwards, which means the compute power increases, doubles, and yeah, it's an exponential function. And if you look at the global data creation, we have 175 zettabytes, and I calculated how much is a zettabyte. In metaphors we can understand, would be 226.5 billion copies of the Bible is 1 zettabyte, and we have 175. Just to download 1 zettabyte on a standard internet connection, I have 100 megabits per second, would cost me 2.5 billion years. So, and we have 175 of that per year. And then another thing that most people don't have on their radar or ignore is that, on the one hand, the AI models are getting smarter and smarter and smarter. They're slowly creeping up. And on the right hand side, you see that the price is dropping drastically. So the prices are currently dropping at a rate of the factor 10 every year. Price sank by 99.59% from 2017, when the large language model transform architecture was invented. And it's not going to stop soon. And Nick Law, one of my favorite and smartest creative directors, also put it nicely into 4 words: mediocrity is therefore free. Because if everybody has the same AI tools, then the difference is how you use it, and of course also what data you put into them. But the mastery and the skills of the user makes the difference, and also the domain expertise, of course. And here again, Europe is lagging behind. It's about to lose 2 to 4 trillion in annual GDP by 2040 if we don't fast catch up. And of course, also structural labor market transformation with impacting 22% of jobs in 2030. And as you can see, the buying powers of Gen Zers and millennials is sinking and is very, very low. So yeah, there are a lot of issues. And then we have things that we can't influence, but we can react to them in a proper way. Yeah? So here are just 8 examples. Everybody knows we have an AI race. US versus China, then US chip embargo, climate disasters, Israel versus Palestine, infrastructure fails, financial instability, left versus right. So this is just 8 examples of many. And also what's happening, as mentioned before, the innovation speed is drastically increasing. So when you have a startup, simplified, you have 3 stages. You have a problem that you identify, then you want to solve. Then you hire programmers to solve, or to build something that solves this, and then you market it and improve the product and sell it. Yeah. So in the second stage was one of the hardest to find good programmers. Yeah. But now with AI, you have vibe coding and all those AI assistant code programs. You can rapidly increase. And if you look at Midjourney and Cursor and all those startups, they have maybe 20, 30, or 40 employees, and they are globally known companies. So that's something that most companies also don't consider. Even if you're a huge behemoth, then those small, fast startups are just like piranhas and eating away on your revenue until you're no more. And even the big tech companies struggle to keep up with AI. as said. And here just two examples of Amazon and Microsoft and how the buying into companies or buying up. You have charts for all those big players because they realize that they need to buy expertise and need to buy also the technology and the know-how. Yeah? So, and another issue that you have is those echo chamber powered tribalism and misinformation, yeah? Because social media, we have since 10, 12, 13 years, we have a rampant growth with social media platforms and with the usage, and especially younger generations, they're just constantly on there. What most people don't realize is that you're in an echo chamber, yeah, and that the algorithms, they just give you that what either confirms your opinion or your bias, or they give you something that triggers you. And so you have a constant fragmentation, left versus right, young versus old, man versus woman versus LGBT, anyone versus everyone. So, and this is a simple human emotional insight. The newspaper industry do it for over a century because they say if it bleeds, it leads, which means that the worst news always goes on the title page because they had to sell the newspaper. And that's the same mechanism that you have on social media. Yeah? And everybody is now quickly reacting to stuff without verifying is it true or looking into it, outraged and emojis and whatever. So it's getting worse and worse because, of course, even the newspapers, they're struggling. Sales go down, so you have more and more clickbait. Yeah, and as the Romans knew back then, divide and conquer. There's a lot of negative impacts, as you can see, the fragmentation, supply chains, cyber attacks. Feel free to pause and read. And then you have the marketing mastery. And for me, marketing is not just the advertising or the promotion. Marketing is every part of your company. Yeah. And what most people think of marketing, the promotion, the advertising part, is just one little part of it. Yeah. It's also how you design your product, the functionality, the appearance, the warranty, the quality, the packaging. Yeah. Or at what price do you sell it? Do you have discounts? Yeah. And what is how does your place look? For example, the Apple Store is also part of the marketing, how it looks. Yeah, people do you employ, and how do you educate your staff? You know, and how friendly are they? All part of marketing. If this is not harmonized and integrated, you know, then you also lose a lot of synergies. So here, just a few examples. So on the left, top left is a briefing checklist that I developed a long time ago. Then the next two images is just one briefing that I wrote, and that's already one of the biggest problems with marketing and especially advertising agencies, that very few put enough time, in my opinion, into writing proper briefs. And then, of course, the quality of the marketing and the advertising, everything suffers. Yeah. Also, then you have creative strategy, which very, very few agencies know how to do. The last three images on the bottom are the why, how, what from the glorious Simon Sinek. So if you click on the first pink link, then you see another presentation of mine where I show how you create a proper brief with examples of award-winning campaigns, and of course everything written down and templates. You can download it, and also I linked to the talk by Simon Sinek. And just to prove my number, 90% of marketing departments can't write good briefs. I mean, the from the brands, the marketing departments, and funny enough is that 80% of the executives of marketing companies think they write good briefs, but only 10% of ad agency executives agree. And I would say the number should be even lower because I've worked as freelancer for over 150 different companies in the last 10, 11 years. And if there were like 10 good briefs in nearly 300 projects, then I think that would be a high number. You can also click at betabriefs.com. There you see the full study. They asked 3,500 C-level executives, and they calculated that $353 billion of ad spend goes to waste this year alone due to bad briefs. Almost all C-levels see the benefits of AI, but 42% admit that they have problems with the adoption process, even with marketing use cases which should be very simple, and they're tearing the company apart. Then of course you have no brand loyalty nowadays anymore, because money is scarce, and people just find so many alternatives. They're just one click away. Then of course you have implementation challenges, a slow ROI. And the crazy part is that 35% of employees pay out of the pocket for better AI tools because they're not happy with what they get at their company, which is also coined shadow AI. Even put confidential company information in those AIs, which has been then later found by other companies. For example, engineers of car companies put into, I think, ChatGPT blueprints, which were later then trained on by ChatGPT, and other companies found them. So, yeah, it's dangerous, and you should empower your employees. The next part, the next dimension is really understanding your customer. And this is just one example of a marketing persona of a potential target group I created for a project for Anthropic, and the dimensions. And if you click in my online presentation on the various images here and everywhere else, then you can zoom in, and then you'll see them and can better read it. So it's really crucial for you to understand your target audience, because also one of the mistakes that many companies do, they market from an internal point of view. Ideally, you love your product or your brand or your company. You want to shout it out into the world, but you need to flip the point of view. You need to customer, consumer, or user, and not communicate the features, but the benefits that this person has from using your tool or your service or whatever you're offering. Yeah. So this is just one page example from a persona I created with AI. And AI is in many ways good. I love it. I use it to get first drafts, and also for simple things. For example, the pain points of a target audience. You can read it on the right. This is just one example. It's good, but since everybody's talking about AI agents, I also want to point out that a really good creative strategist, or even a creative of an advertising agency, can find much better insights into the human psyche. Here are a few examples. For example, impatience overrides intelligence. Yeah, so most people prioritize speed over thought through consideration and weight wisdom. We can see it every day, for example, on social media. Or there was also a nice interview with Jeff Bezos. Anecdotes usually better than data. So if you have both in your company, anecdotes and data, and they don't line up, then usually Jeff Bezos said the anecdotes are right, and you're measuring the wrong thing. So as you can see, there are a lot of very deep insights in here. I highly recommend to look up Rory Sutherland on YouTube. He's just a treasure trove of insights, and he's like a British direct marketing and human insight god, I would call him. And I also created a podcast that you can find. Either you click here or you look on my YouTube page, where I highlighted the 6 areas that are for a long time going to be the domain where humans still trump AI. And it's also explained why in length. It's a half-an-hour podcast. Negative impacts, of course, that yeah, you can see over 80% of customers won't pay even 10% a premium. So there's huge misunderstandings because companies don't invest enough time to understand where their customers are, and what they're willing to do and what their pain points are. Especially financial firms don't champion creative thinking as a core skill, and undervalue the empathic customer centric ideation. Then the next dimension is user experience. Here, of course, the page of Apple as it is at the moment. And what is really nice to see, you always start with a very simple, clean website, and you see the newest product on top. And then you click, for example, on one, and then the second page you land, you see the product and you see the benefits. Yeah, they don't talk about the feature; they talk about the benefits, what you have. Yeah, and then if you go deeper, then you get into the features and the megabytes and the size and whatever. But it's not only superficial. It's Apple does it in everything, every touch point, their stores, their packaging, even their programming guidelines are designed and the best user experience in the world, in my opinion. and they have it in every aspect of their marketing, in every, yeah, channel, touch point, whatever. And since we're talking about Apple, what I also noticed, working for over 150 international ad agencies and marketing departments, that most of my bosses and executives, they adore Steve Jobs, and they want to be like Steve Jobs and or Apple, but very few know what it really means to be like Apple. It's not enough to want to be like Apple and have a nice website. Yeah, the whole um, the whole way of working is a very specific one, and I can highly recommend the book Built by Tony Fadell, who was working with Steve Jobs directly, and he built the iPod, the iPhone, the Nest thermostat, and much more. And this is one of the best books I've read in my life. And it's not, it's kind of biography, but also with a lot of amazing chapters, as you can see. That's why I copied the table of contents. And again, yeah, so here, 52% of employees distrust AI outputs, 95% of executives are not completely satisfied with their vendors, a lot of disconnect and challenges. So, and the last part is the 360 degrees creative concepts. So, here just 8 examples of integrated 360 creative concepts that were also award winning and also generated a lot of return on invest. They're from last year's Cannes Lions Award, which is the world's best award show. And if you click on the pink link, then you get on the website, and they have over 300 winning campaigns last year alone, which all solved a business problem with a very smart creative strategy and excellent execution. And here, this are just 8 examples. You have a lot of leaders who agree that creative ideas are essential for long-term success and performance. On the one hand, it's acknowledged, but not all companies lay the foundations or empower the employees to do it. These are the 8 dimension or the 8 dimensional business success matrix, and this is the way I look at a company. So when people ask me, "Yeah, what are you? Are you an AI consultant or a creative director?" Yeah, I'm a systems thinker with 8 domain expertises, and I believe that these are the 8 most crucial parts that you should look at and optimize and harmonize to have a maximum success and return on invest. Here you'll see best practices, and only 7% of enterprises follow them. I don't think I have to say anything else to that. And of course, here this is a very, very short, simplified overview. And you can, when you know your market, when you know your competitors, when you know your SWOT analysis of your company, then you can also simply throw it into a large language model and brainstorm with it what would be good use cases, yeah, or simply look into your HR system. Where are the most hours used up, or where are the bottlenecks in your company? Because AI is not there to be used just because it's cool. It's there to solve a business problem, a pain point. And that's where I would start. I would look at the pain points in your company and then use AI to solve them. Here, these are the 5 steps for hyper productivity, also self explanatory. Just pause if you want to read them all. These, in my opinion, should be the 5 traits of a great technology partner. So, now just a few charts about me. I'm multi-ethnic, Greek and Austrian with Italian Turkish influences, 40 years IT, 30 internet, 25 marketing expertise, and 10, 15 in Germany, but I also worked in New York and Hong Kong, and the last 11 years freelancer in Europe. And of course, 10 international perm positions before I went freelance on budgets of up to 120 million per year, which is a lot in Germany, which is now inflation corrected 160 million. And yeah, you can read it. I have multiple qualifications. Also, taught myself a lot: creative strategy, brand strategy. I love the get who to buy approach, to buy how what, and the blue ocean strategy. Yeah, and the biggest insight that I have is seeing how advertising agencies and marketing departments neglected the rise of the internet, and then later just frantically bought up digital agencies and merged them, which also caused a lot of chaos. So I would urge people not to wait that long because AI is developing at a much faster pace than the internet was back then. So, and I believe in first principle system thinking. So always challenge assumptions, and don't try to implement anything that's convoluted. Remove everything that you don't need, because in programming in IT, when you can execute the same function with less code, then it's better. Yeah, the more reduced you create a system, the more simplified, the better it is. And the metaphor I like the most is, of course, if you compare a chef and an amateur cook. The amateur cooks following rules, for example, imitating a recipe, which is kind of an analogy. And a chef cooks by first principles. He or she knows all the ingredients and the techniques on a fundamental level, and then from there up builds his or her recipes and dishes. What I found out using AI, and especially large language models, that I have a native understanding. For example, I started in 2023 in the first quarter and looked at ChatGPT, played around, didn't know anything, tested everything. And what amazed me is extremely steep learning curve ahead. And then, for example, when OpenAI had this press release, here are 6 prompt strategies that you could and should use to get better results. And I read that, and I was surprised that they had to post this because I thought everybody would use it like this. So I was instinctively doing those strategies without somebody teaching me beforehand, because it just made sense in my Asperger's and ADHD brain. Or another example is Microsoft has this prompt compressor that filters your text out and only uses the important words. And I natively write like that. I don't write full sentences, I leave filler words out. And these are just 2 examples. Or I was a mentor in a computer science masterclass where we had an AI project, and even the professor with 20 years of expertise in data science and teaching AI for 10 years couldn't solve a problem, asked me for help, and for me, I've thought 5 minutes and then solved it. Yeah, and I believe in problem solving with a mixture of logic but also creativity, lateral thinking, which AI still can't do properly. So on the left is just a fun example I like to put. When I changed my dentist, when I moved to Berlin, I immediately fell in love, but I didn't want to embarrass the lady. So in front of her assistants, so when she asked me to bring my last X-ray from my last dentist, I simply wrote, "May I take you out to dinner?" and layout it into the teeth and put my phone number down. So basically, this is a montage that I created for her, and I got a 100% response quota. Or in the middle, when the invasion was in Russia, the newspaper said that Russian soldiers used Tinder to hit on Ukrainian ladies. So I just thought of this Tinder hack where we actually posted this message because Ukraine was incentivizing Russian soldiers to drop their weapons, and I just thought of this idea, sent it around. Even Stefan Sargmeister shared it, and I have seen it go a little bit viral online. And it's just like an idea to further peace. Or on the right hand side, what I also realized is one night when I was alone walking through a suburb in San Francisco, when a meth addict held a gun into my face, I was pleasantly surprised that instead of panicking, my Asperger brain kicked in, and I managed to get out of the situation with pure logic and convincing him that I'm not a good target without fighting. And I see a lot of things natively. For example, when I had my first iPhone in 2008, after a month or so, I immediately turned off all the notifications because I realized those bings, they're not healthy. They're constantly disturbing me, and they're stressing me out. And now, for example, one of my favorite professors, Jonathan Haidt, he also confirmed it. He has a lot of studies on that topic. Or that Donald Trump was reelected. I mean, I'm not a fan, I'm not a hater, but I think, in my opinion, it was pretty obvious in mid 2024. Or another thing, if you're in Germany, the fascinating thing is, as soon as you have a slightly conservative opinion, you're immediately labeled as Nazi. And it's not surprising, in my opinion, because if you look at studies from the public German broadcasting system, like ARD, ZDF, those radio stations also, that 83 or 84% of the German journalists identify as left or liberal or progressive, however you want to call it. So that's, in my opinion, that's why it makes total sense that there are constantly people are being called out, even if they just have a slightly conservative opinion, yeah, because if everybody's on the left, then everybody else is on the right. Yeah, and what I believe that most traditional software will become obsolete in the next 15 to 20 years. What I mean is that most software will become AI, and AI will then, if you have deterministic task, will just like a function call today, will create this subroutine, this deterministic subroutine to be more efficient, but the software itself will be AI. At least that's my belief. And if you look at the progress of biology and robotics and whatever, I also believe that the average human lifespan will grow to 500 plus years until the end of this century. What I also see at the moment is AI is progressing at an exponential rate, but humans are not capable, at least most, to learn at an exponential rate. I myself follow 15 AI newsletters. Some come daily, some come weekly, and have trouble keeping up with all the news and the developments. So that's why when you look, especially for example on LinkedIn, the amount of misinformation, especially about AI, that is posted is rapidly increasing. And if you click at this pinned link, then you'll see three examples and also a new service that I offer. So I use AI, I mean, multiple ways, but two categories. The one is I just use it for tasks, not full jobs. Summarize, write, translate, brainstorm, strategize, whatever. But also because I have 8 different domain expertises, skill sets. I also like to combine those. So basically, I can now, as a single person who is a copywriter, a creative director, but I couldn't draw. Even if somebody put a gun to my head, I couldn't draw a human or a car. But now, thanks to AI, because I'm a writer, I can verbalize that. So I can basically do the whole job of an advertising agency at record speed. Or I can develop business models like a consulting company. So that's why I believe it's not only important to understand AI, but to also have domain expertises. And I believe the more domain expertises you have, the better you are in utilizing the full power of AI. Just two examples. One, a new AI use cases. I just did this. I took one of my favorite advertising agencies called Monks, and first I analyzed the company and the competition. So this is Perplexity. I think it's 13-page analysis with SWOT, Porter's five forces, etc., which is pretty good. And then I used that and threw it into ChatGPT Deep Research with a very long prompt that was, I think, 16, 17 pages long, and just had it develop for me 12 different Gen AI use cases that have a strategic fit and of course the best return on invest. This took me half an hour, and as you can see, 74 pages. And another thing what I love to do is to develop new business models, especially to differentiate a company from its competitors. Here you'll see the full presentation on my website. These are just outtakes from my telecom presentation, where I developed 10 business models using telecom's consultancy skills, but also telecom, the network provider. And yeah, I like quite a few of them. I hope this quick run through was helpful, and feel free to look at the presentation on our website. Either you type in my name or you click on the QR code, and then you can look at the presentation at your own speed without my audio, and follow the links for more resources. I wish you a good day.